Hi everyone, Hira here. Oh, okay, we have a visitor. Good evening. It is just past midnight where I am. So happy Easter to everybody. Hope everybody had a good Sunday. I'm going to give it a few minutes here because people sometimes take a little bit of time to join us. So yeah, hope your Easter was good. I saw a message from the Pope, and as always, I think he always managed to just say things in a way that rings true, I think, no matter what religion or spiritual tradition you believe in or none at all. He just said that it doesn't really matter how much you fast or whether you eat ashes or whether you go to church or recite prayers. He said none of that matters. All that really matters is whether you do good for others, whether you're kind and compassionate, and that's what really matters. So that's exactly what I believe. I believe that on every day of the year, not just on Easter, but today is a great day to share that and wish everybody a happy Easter. And with that, today's topic is very important. A little bit of a stressful topic, I know, for a lot of people, but H1B, so this is U.S. work authorization. Those of you who are in the United States currently either in a 4-degree undergraduate program and you are in your senior year graduating and you hope to get employment in the U.S., or you're in a master's program and in your final year, a master's program like an MBA, for example, and you wish to remain in the U.S. and work here when you graduate. So either of these two situations where you are in a degree program about to graduate and you need to be sponsored by a U.S. employer if you want to remain here, right? So this is true for all U.S. employers. Now, the only group of institutions this is not true for international organizations, by which I mean not NGOs, not nonprofits. I mean international as in multilateral institutions such as the World Bank, IFC, IMF, United Nations, any multilateral institution. In other words, countries are the members of those institutions. Those are on a different visa track called the G4, and it falls outside the United States, right? So it falls outside H1B and other visa categories. So for our intents and purposes today, we're talking about the H1B because tomorrow is the big day, with actually already today for me, April 2nd, the day that the H1B window opens for applications. It used to be that the window the window is several weeks, but it used to be that that would take some number of weeks, and now it's shortened and shortened and shortened and shortened to the point where now it's literally these visas the quota gets filled within days. I don't know when it was. I think it was last year or maybe the year before. It was within 4 days. It was done because there's only 85,000 H1B visas available. 20,000 of those are reserved for students in master's degree programs, and so that doesn't, if you think about the massive volume of applications, which runs in the 250,000, it's basically double, treble, 4 times what's available. So that's kind of where the whole as you have heard, I'm sure, the controversy and the difficulties lie, because these visas are not necessarily going to high-skilled workers, but, very often to outsourcing companies and their employees. Now, I don't want to get into that too much. That's the political side of things. I don't want to comment too much on that. I'm just more interested in talking to our students, obviously, who are graduating and who wish to remain here. So hopefully your employers are already, your prospective employers are on top of this, right? So you don't have to worry about this until as you know, you get your OPT, CPT, right? So CPT is in your summer internship, and then when you graduate, you get 1 year of OPT, optical practical training. And then if you are in a STEM degree, so a science degree, technology degree, then I think it's three years. So that's not bad. I mean, you can actually be here for 3 years for OPT. And then your employer has to sponsor you on an H1B. And so that's what this process is that's kicking in tomorrow, right? So if you are graduating and you have an offer from an employer, you don't have to worry about it because you will initially be on your OPT. And this time next year is when the employer would be filing your H1B. Now, a lot of times, if you got your offer earlier on, right? So let's say you had your offer already for some months, then you might have spoken to your employer about trying this round as well. Because that way it gives you 2 tries, right? Because you can try this round, and in case you don't get the approval, then you can try again next April as well. It gives you 2 tries. I think in total there are 3 tries, but of course, you know, you kind of want to, the first 2 are the 2 that are really in the control of the employer, right? So, you know, just make sure that, you know, if you are earlier on in the process, then great, try to get your employer, try to get your offer in and have them sponsor you this year, and then, or already you're probably doing that, and then of course you get a second try when you're working with them on the OPT. All right, so that's the gist of it. Now, there have been some tightening of the rules lately. Actually, let me pause there. Are there any questions? I know this is a tricky topic, so please do not feel shy. There is no question that is not a worthwhile question. Everybody, we're all learning as we go along. I mean, as long as I have been coaching on this topic, every year things change. And even now, I was just spending some time researching and trying to make sure that, you know, I know what I'm talking about. So, you know, and it could well be that I'm missing information too, right? So just please, if you have comments or questions, let me know. You can put that in the little box. And I think I've said this before, we will always answer all questions, whether it's live or offline after we're done. All right, so with the H1B, there are some key things to remember, and that is that, so there are 2 steps to this, right? So the first one is the labor conditions certificate. That needs to be filed first, approved, and then the H1B is filed. So just a quick, I mean, none of this is stuff that you guys do, right? Just to be clear, this is all done by your employer, and it's the employer's responsibility. The employer is sponsoring you. So the employer has to do all the documentation paperwork. And the cost, which actually is not that big, I think the cost is something like, I think $2,800 or something like that, or I don't know, they used to have premium processing. I don't know whether this current administration changed that, but regardless, the employer has to pay, and the employer has to file all this because they are in charge of everything, right? So you're not in control of any of this, and you can't, it's not you who's filling these things out. You have no authority, ability to do that. You don't have these forms, you don't have access to them. So just remember that, right? It's not you and your lawyers, it's your firm and their lawyers, right? So the first thing they need to do is the LCA, labor condition application. And what this is basically, it's saying that you know, this particular job is at this wage range, and it gives other details about the conditions of that particular role, and so that needs to be certified by the Department of Labor. And the way they file it is it's Form 129. I'm sorry, I got that, I mixed that up. ETA Form 9035, okay? ETA Form 9035. That's the labor condition application. So the employer files that first. That can be filed electronically. It's pretty simple. You go to the iCert portal and file that, and you should get the approval pretty quickly. And then once they get the approval, they will then file your H1B petition, which is the Form I-129. So the Form I-129 is very well known. That's the H1B petition. Okay, so these are the two steps, and you cannot do one without the other. So let's take a case. Let's go through, because I had this question earlier from a student, and this is actually interesting because this is not a student, one of my old students who now wants to switch companies, right? So he just got hired by, let's say, company A, and he's currently working for company B on an H1B, right? So when company A, the new company, extended the offer to my let's call him Kumar. They extended the offer to Kumar. He accepted it, returned the signed offer letter to company A. Company A was aware that he could begin work as soon as the new H1B petition was filed, right? So with the H1B petition, it only needs to be filed, right? You can start work once it's filed. So what the company A did was they put in the LCA through the iCert portal, and of course, because they wanted Kumar to start immediately, they also submitted the H1B petition without waiting for the LCA. Okay, and then Kumar started working for company A. Of course, he ran into problems, right? So, Logan? Okay, I don't know what Logan is doing, but all right, so he ran into problems because that's not allowed. That H1B petition, whether it's approved or not, doesn't really matter because it's invalid. It needed to have a certified LCA. It has to include a certified LCA, and it did not in this case, right? So what, in such a case like this, what do you think, what happens? Does anyone know what happens when you're working and you're not in proper status? So what happens is he actually had to return. So it's unauthorized employment, right? Because he's working on an H1B petition that is not valid. And of course, the LCA was approved, but it doesn't matter because it was not included with the H1B, right? So because of that, because it was not properly filed, he actually had to leave the US. And so he has two options. One is he returns on the old H1B if that visa, so remember he was working for company B. So let's say company B is happy to take him back and the old visa is still available under the visa is current and he's in status under the old H1B, then he can fly back and he can return to work for his old employer. Otherwise, if he wants to work for company A, then company has to resubmit the H1B application and do it properly this time. So do the labor cert, get the LCA certified, and then put in the I-129 H1B petition. And then when all that is done, he can return to the United States. So he's in that situation of, obviously he wants to work for company A, but working for company A means he has to go through that whole process. Now he has a wait time. So there's all those complications, and then if he wants to get back to the U.S. immediately, then luckily for him, his old employer is fine with him returning to work. So that's a call he has to make. And so just be aware how, you've got to be really, really careful with these things, because anything that's improperly filed, if you happen to be working in a status that is unauthorized, then the way the U.S. system works is it's not like you can hang out and wait for these papers to be properly done, or that's not how it works. You actually have to leave and come back, right? So, and as you know, with the U.S., same thing with when one visa ends and a new one starts, right? So, for example, when your H1B is renewed, or when you are changing, like for example, I've been on several H1Bs, and then I've been on a G4, and I've been on all kinds of visas, but so when I went from an H1B to an E2, the E2 is the startup visa that I have for running Kareli, I had to leave the country, right? So I can go to either one of my countries of nationality, which is Switzerland or Sri Lanka, or I can simply exit the United States and go to Canada, Mexico, wherever, anywhere. I remember once I went to Nova Scotia in Canada, because that visa office there was really good at premium processing. So I went out there. It was this little fishing village, and I hung out there for 3 days until my employer was able to get all of that filed. So anyway, so you do have to, in any event, regardless, that's just the way the U.S. system works. You always have to leave the country and come back in on the right status, right? Because the status, that card that you get when you enter the country, that is the key thing. You have to always be in status, so to speak, right? And those two things are separate. That immigration thing and the visa that you get, those are separate. So you have to make sure that you're in status. Anyway, I know there's a lot. I covered just a lot right there, so I'll try and explain it again piece by piece, either on live or one of our videos. I'll try to do a post and put that up there as well, because I know that people have just a lot of, every year students have questions on it, but now especially with these new kind of there are little changes, and a lot of confusion around what has changed, what has not changed. So I'll definitely touch base. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Does anyone have any questions that I can take right now? I have maybe a minute or two. Okay, well, reach out to us anytime, and please, I know that, of course, one part of this is the technicalities of the H1B, but I know the bigger issue is just the stress that you guys are facing just simply over the whole business of getting sponsored. What are your chances of getting sponsored? How to approach it, how to be tactical, how to be strategic, how do you keep your job search as wide as possible? What are your backups? And more than anything else in the world, just not getting demoralized or dejected, not falling into, just fear and, oh my goodness, if I don't get this, it's the end of my life or career. I mean, I promise you that is not the case. There are lots of different options. The world is a large place, and every year hundreds of thousands of students go. Logan. Okay, that's my dog, and he gets mad at his own shadow. Okay, I gotta go. Okay, bye.